It's no secret that the Federal Reserve has enjoyed over 100 years of complete domination and control of the U.S. money supply.
Can you characterize everything that the Fed has done this past week as essentially flooding the system with money?
Yes, exactly.
And there's no end to your ability to do that.
There is no end to our ability to do that.
But is the Fed all of a sudden warming up to Bitcoin? Or is this just more Bitcoin bull run FUD? Let's find out. Welcome back, everyone. That's right. We are going to dive into some Fed comments, specifically comments from Neal Kashkari. So here we go, because there obviously seems to be some confusion specifically at the Minneapolis Fed. But more specifically, it seems that Neal Kashkari is the one who's either confused or flip-flopping. Let me explain. Since Donald Trump won the presidential election and made some promises to the crypto industry and Bitcoiners, it seems like Neal Kashkari has taken a bit of a different stance. And according to an article that came out November 13th, because people like Elon Musk have indicated that they'd essentially like to dramatically reduce the role of the Fed, it seems that Neal is now all of a sudden maybe changing his tune. In the past, he said things like Bitcoin is worthless and fraudulent. All of a sudden, though, as of November 13th, he said he could be swayed and that he'd have an open mind. Now, that was November 13th. But then all of a sudden, there was a Bloomberg interview that was released with Neal Kashkari where essentially he completely flip-flops on this and goes back to his old stance on Bitcoin.
I want to touch on cryptocurrencies. You've been a major critic. In fact, you talked about how cryptocurrencies are like a giant garbage dumpster at one point. I mean, with Bitcoin getting close to $100,000, how are you feeling about cryptocurrencies now?
Well, the question that I've been asking for the last 7 or 8 years continues. What can you actually do with it other than just speculating on it? I understand it's an article of speculation, and that's fine if people want to speculate on it. That's fine. They can speculate on anything they would like. But does it actually have any utility in an advanced economy? Can you buy things with it? Do people buy things with it? At least in the U.S., the answer is a resounding no. Almost nobody buys anything using Bitcoin. Then it was supposed to be an inflation hedge. And then when inflation took off in the U.S., Bitcoin got crushed. So it wasn't an inflation hedge. So it's not a useful payment tool. It's not an inflation hedge. Is it merely a speculative asset as an instrument of speculation? If that's all it is, that's fine. People can be free to speculate on whatever they would like. But I would like us to be clear on what this is and what this is not. And I'm waiting for anybody to explain to me how it is actually useful in an advanced economy, and I just haven't seen it yet.
So what's accurate? Is Neal signaling support for the Trump presidency with his newfound open mind about Bitcoin? Or is he just following his incentives, right? He works for the Fed, so he needs to keep his job. He needs to help ensure his paycheck. So obviously he is not going to want to diminish the power of the Fed in any way. So it really becomes a bit of a difficult situation, right? So between November 13th, where Neal said he is now going to have an open mind about Bitcoin, and November 25th, where he went back to his old criticisms of Bitcoin, it makes it very confusing. What does he actually think? Well, I believe it doesn't really matter what he thinks. Let me explain. If this is not your first Bitcoin bull run and you have been in this space for, let's say, at least 8 years, you most likely are aware that officials tend to flip-flop on their stance about Bitcoin. Now, of course, there are certain players, right, like JP Morgan, who have pretty much stayed the same the entire time, right? They may offer financial products about Bitcoin. They may offer financial products relating to Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, but in the end, they do not believe in Bitcoin. Okay. And they, deep inside, I really believe that Jamie Dimon thinks that it is a complete scam. Nevertheless, I don't really care what he thinks because, lucky for us, Bitcoin's qualities stand apart from everybody's opinions about Bitcoin. Now, I don't think Neal is a supporter of Bitcoin. I think Neal works for the Fed, okay? And some people that are close to Trump have signaled that they want to put pressure on the Fed, or in some cases, reduce its role in our society, more specifically, reduce its role in relation to the economy and monetary policy. So, yeah, if somebody's telling you that they're going to cut your job or give you less work, well, what's going to happen is that in some cases, you're most likely going to find reasons and situations to diminish that or make that go away altogether. So yeah, I don't think Neal, I don't think his stance has changed. Okay, the Fed is all powerful. The Fed issues money. I don't believe that he sees Bitcoin as money. I also don't believe that he sees it anything else as what he has claimed in the past, right? That it's just fraudulent, used for scams, used by criminals, all of the random things that essentially make the average non-thinking person afraid of Bitcoin. I don't think that changed at all. I think this type of FUD is par for the course, especially during these cycles. Again, guys, I hate to sound like a broken record, but here I go. Back in 2017, that cycle, every single day, there was a new piece of FUD. Either Bitcoin was dying, Tether was going to implode and kill Bitcoin, India bans mining, China bans mining, China bans Bitcoin. It's the never-ending bingo card of FUD. Okay, and when we are in a bull cycle, that FUD gets turned up to the max. So you know what? It doesn't make a difference what Neal Kashkari thinks. It doesn't make a difference what the Federal Reserve, whether the people that work for the Federal Reserve like Bitcoin or not. It's completely irrelevant, because if any of them become hodlers, all it takes is for a few of them to start hodling. And guess what? The individual incentives will trump everything else. Anyways, guys, it's going to be a light week. As everybody knows, it's Thanksgiving. I'm not sure how many clips I'm going to put out this week, but rest assured, we're going to have some shorts. And of course, we are still going to be doing our weekly episode. This week, we've got an awesome guest coming up. But anyways, it's got nothing to do with this clip. So, guys, I'm done. This is all I wanted to talk about. I will catch you next time